Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 151, featuring Ashley Ryan. Welcome back to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray, and I am thrilled that you are back and that you are spending the next 45 minutes-ish with me. It will be a huge investment in your life to listen and apply what you learn in this 45-minute episode. What is shared with regard to best practices in hiring, new techniques, new little tweaks that you can make and apply to your hiring process will be mind-blowing and very much transformational for your process in terms of your results. So I want to have you strap on in and pay attention to this episode. This is one of the best that I have done, and it is all about Ashley's hiring success formula, which has some nuances and differences and a lot of tweaks that are going to bring you better results in the money you're spending and the time you're spending in hiring. This episode is sponsored in part by Grow Your Center. If you are struggling with keeping your website up to date, your team is frustrated by your CRM software, and or you want to completely outsource your hiring to a team that gets it, that knows how to find more A-player teacher and director candidates, give Grow Your Center a call today. We have built over 300 world-class websites for early education programs exclusively, and we can also handle your social media and your Google ads, bringing you more leads and, of course, more applicants. Learn more today with a free Get Acquainted call at growyourcenter.com. Get into boss mode today and take it off your plate at growyourcenter.com. All right, let's dive in. Ashley Ryan is currently the Chief Operating Officer at Grow Your Center. You're going to hear her talk about her history as an entrepreneur. She owned her own digital marketing agency exclusively for female entrepreneurs. Very, very cool, very successful. She then closed that agency down and went to work as a consultant, doing what she loved to help companies grow and scale their teams in particular. She is a queen of culture. She's an amazing badass, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. We talk all about what will make great employees, what to look for in interviews, interview questions, red flags to look for right even before you interview them, and so much more. You guys, this is a really valuable episode. So if you can listen to it with pen and paper in hand, all the better. Also, in the show notes, there's a link to Ashley's scorecard that she wanted to share, and she speaks about that on the podcast. And so go to the show notes of this show and download her scorecard, and it will be an immensely useful free tool for you in your hiring. You're welcome. Personally, I am very busy getting ready for my daughter's 18th birthday, which at time of recording this is 8 days away. Then she is going to graduate high school with honors. Her honors cords, she ordered her own honors cords because she wanted to wear pink ones. Always the unique individual, my daughter. She is going to college this fall at Savannah College of Art and Design, majoring in fashion marketing, and I could not be more proud. I am going to be a hot mess of sobbing and tissues, so I am prepared for that emotionally, I think, and excited to launch her off into her next life and to launch myself off into my next time of life of being an empty nester. So it's really quite exciting over here. So let's dive in and meet Ashley. I can't wait for you to meet her and have her share with you all the yummy goodness that she has to share around hiring. The Hiring Success Formula with Ashley Ryan. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am Kris, your host, and I'm so excited to introduce you today to a colleague and friend of mine, Miss Ashley Ryan. Ashley, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm wonderful. Now that I'm doing this podcast with you, I'm excited.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm very excited about this episode. Where are you right now?
I am currently in Canada, but I just got back. I was in Mexico for 3 months, which was a real adventure. So I'm just enjoying Canada and we'll see where the wind takes me next.
Nice. Well, I think it's cool that you were able to get out of the cold, early spring and spring of Canada and enjoy it in Mexico. We were down there kind of at the same time because I was down outside of Cancun with the Empire clients. I think you were close by.
I was.
Yeah. Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about Ashley, the story of Ashley. How did you get here? And let me say before you do that I work with Ashley. She is our COO at Grow Your Center. And I have been in different coaching groups and cool groups of people with Ashley prior to that. So I've known you for, I think, about 2 years, year and a half. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to our clients here at the podcast and our audience. So tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's been a long journey, Kris. With a lot of, as you know, being in any kind of business, like there's a lot of trial and error. And so I didn't actually go to college for anything related to what I'm doing now. I was in health services and like the medical space. And so I started college and I'm like, you know what? I'm not good at this whole studying thing. So I was kind of a self-starter and I started my own web agency, working with female entrepreneurs. And things went really well. And that's where I really learned a lot of business skills, because it's one thing to talk about things, but it's another thing to be thrown in and to make expensive mistakes. Oftentimes, when we're leading something, it's those costly mistakes that kind of show us the way.
Yeah.
So things were going very well. Over 10 years that I owned my agency, things were going quickly and I was killing it and all was going well. But I thought and I'm kind of maybe digressing to more of a professional development journey, but I always thought that when I got this certain thing or this certain amount of revenue, that it would be like, the heavens would open and I'd feel a certain way, or maybe that would mean something about me, like value wise. I thought, oh, when I get to this point, when I get to the $1 million mark, that's going to be it, right? And so then I got to the mark, I got to the revenue and the team that I wanted, and I'm like, hey, this isn't what I expected. And now I'm going to move the needle further. And then I started to kind of question things and what I was really wanting in life and what was important and priorities and value, right? Because sometimes we tie up our value in our careers.
Right.
So that brought me to a really interesting point of actually letting it all go. So being at a really wonderful spot, but then from my soul taking another path. And
wow.
And then I worked for a few clients, helping them design departments in their business, building out HR departments, sales departments, a lot of business development.
Yeah.
Eventually I had transitioned to GYC.
So did you just shut your agency down? And if so, when did you do that? Or did you sell it?
Yeah. So the plan was to sell it, but it had passive income. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just kind of keep it doing its thing, and the income's kind of rolling along.
Right.
But I did technically, I'd say, shut it down for the most part.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you, obviously made that choice so that you could come flow into our life and my life and help us over at GYC. And I actually met you through a Facebook show that you did with Bruce. You guys were on Fridays and you would go on Facebook and do a live show. And that's when I met Bruce, was through that Facebook channel or that page. So very, very cool. So tell us a little bit about you personally. So you're Canadian born and bred, I'm assuming.
Yes, I'm Canadian, but I'm American at heart, I have to say. I love the US and the cultural. It is a different culture from Canada and other parts of every area in the world has kind of a different tone. And I really love America, and I spend as much time as I can there a year, spend half my year there. So
Nice. And do you have kids?
I do. I have a 19-year-old son.
Mm.
So he's grown up. So yeah, he's kind of doing his own thing. He's an old soul and just is really on his own journey. So, I try to hang out with him as much as possible, but he's on his own path. So I'm busy with work and friends and traveling and just kind of less of a committed life. Work is my main child. So right now.
Right now. Yeah, I can feel that because you work a lot and really well and beautifully. And so I'm like, gosh, like Ashley got all this stuff done. Like, oh my God, like she's a whirlwind. How does she get it all done? But yeah, it is. It's your baby right now. And
Totally.
that's great.
Yeah.
So tell us a fun fact. What is something unique about you that hardly anyone knows about you?
Well, a couple things is, well, I ride a motorcycle. So
Really?
yeah. So statistically, not a lot of women ride motorbikes, but I ride a motorcycle. I was living in India for a year and everybody was riding scooters. And I'm like, scooters are so nerdy. I'm going to get a motorbike. And it was a long learning curve, but it was really fun.
That's so cool. You're a bad boss, bitch. Look at you.
I was thinking that word when you said it. I was like, oh, she's going to say that.
I know. Um, that's great. I love that fun fact. That's super cool. I've always had a secret desire to like get a Harley and
I
like,
could totally see you on a motorbike, Kris.
yeah, and maybe go to Sturgis. I don't know, and hang out with the Harley dudes. I don't know. I don't know if that will happen, but so we're here today to talk about hiring. And we've done a lot of trainings, a lot of webinars, a lot of workshops on the topic of hiring post pandemic. It's been a complete nightmare and, extremely painful part of trying to do business for our childcare clients that we have in common, both at Grow Your Center and Childcare Success. And it's the number one pain point in a lot of industries still here in 2023, and especially in early childhood. So what new strategies or approaches kind of give us maybe, a little peek into what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. And it's so funny, like in business in general. So new things are really good. And like the world has evolved and business and marketing and hiring and everything has evolved. But I do like a mix of like time tested things as
Yes.
well as kind of the new things. For example, having a good company culture never goes out of style. And
Right.
I have read so everything I'm telling everybody on this session
Yeah.
is extensive research. So I actually research and spend a lot of my personal time like going down these rabbit holes. And in terms of attracting talent and joining an organization, there's two things that people look for. And number one is actually the culture. And number two is, can I grow at this company? People nowadays, for whatever reason, are really looking for growth
Yeah.
and like their next level. So can I progress in this company? So to answer your question, I'd say really important as a company, what are your company values? Are you living those company values? Because a lot of companies say things and then they're not necessarily living into those values. So those are, instead of being like, oh, I want this new jazzy thing, it's like, I think going back to the fundamentals,
Yeah.
because those are what's going to make or break the hiring and the recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Culture is important. A lot of people actually aren't motivated by money, surprisingly.
Right.
The studies, they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
So benefits are important, examining your benefits. And people tend to think really linear when it comes to this stuff. But it's nowadays, I keep saying nowadays, like we're so old, but it's really important to think outside of the box. So for example, let me use an example.
Yeah.
In the space that we're in, people work really hard. Like say if you're a teacher or you're caring for children, that's like a huge amount of energy, right? So when we think of benefits, it doesn't have to be like, okay, just medical. It could be like, if you work really hard, we'll actually give you a week off paid, because in that space of that amount of working you have to do, like what about we rotate, and then it's not about the money, but it's like people want time with their family. So maybe
Yes.
we would like a week off, right? Or every month or two, they get a 4-day week or what, you know what I mean? So there's different ways to look at things instead of just linear.
Yes. So I love those out of the box ideas. We have talked about implementing more PTO bonus days, like ways that people can either earn PTO or they just get gifted it because they're noticed as being an A player. So you want to keep your A players really energized. So giving them those additional paid time off opportunities, I love. And I think a lot of our audience has developed their core values, but I'm not sure everybody is living and breathing into their core values to actually have a living, breathing culture. So maybe we talk a little bit more about what that looks like, but I just want to also mention and highlight what you just said about opportunities to advance and be developed as an employee in the workplace is where is this going to lead me? What is the path to advancement? How am I going to be developed? And in an ECE, a traditional early learning organization, it's pretty flat. The org chart is pretty flat. And so we talked about this actually at our mastermind last week was how do we create new opportunities for teachers to get developed and come out of the classroom and be seen as leaders and get recognized as leading projects or have some more responsibility and to be, or look at ways to make your org chart a little bit deeper so that they will be able to see opportunities for growth.
Yeah. And Kris, you make an amazing point. And the important thing is I wish this could be scalable or systemizable, but the reality is everybody's unique and everybody's motivated differently. So having a good work culture actually means different things for different people. Growth opportunities mean different things for different people.
Right.
For example, say, earlier in my career, working round the clock, no sleep, no work-life balance. And then later it's like, oh, I want a bit more balance. So it doesn't mean I'm still not that hard worker. It means depending on where people are at in their life stage, we need to find out where that matches up in terms of their job. You know what I mean? It's developing is a very unique experience. So finding out what's important to each team member and then going with that versus a one size fits all. I have some other items in regards to your question. I just want to make sure I track back. Having a great manager, that's actually in all these studies that they do, that's always number one and number two. It doesn't matter. The company culture can suck. If you have a good manager, that can offset it. Hopefully it doesn't, but having a good manager, and if you have a manager who is, say, a bully or difficult or toxic, let's just say, that can make somebody's life miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't leave a job, they leave a manager, is a quote that always comes to mind on that. Yeah. And we talk a lot about leadership in this podcast, as far as specifically how to improve, how to look in the mirror, how to show up every day as a positive leader, how to check in, how to do one-on-ones, how to show that you care, you communicate, all of those things. So I absolutely love all of this, Ashley. So
I have two more, Kris. Is that
okay? Wait, no, is this your hiring success formula or this is different? Okay, go ahead.
I have two more quick ones. And these are more along the lines of nowadays. I'm tracking back to the nowadays. Reviews, online reviews. Okay. In this space, people look at the reviews. And many of our clients who come to us for the recruiting side, because we do recruiting for them, if they have really bad reviews or low reviews or no reviews, that's something we need to up the ante on.
So where should people be looking?
Glassdoor typically and Indeed. Okay. That's kind of where the magic happens in terms of reviews. So these sites, people are leaving. So generally we recommend having asking your employees, hey, can you leave a review for us? So that'll boost Google as well, but we like to focus on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and Glassdoor as well as one that people look at. Okay. And then one more I want to add, one more tip is competitive salary. Again, salary's it's never, I find, a priority I know that sounds weird, but it's why did you leave this company? It's not often oh, I was paid too little. It was oh, I wasn't valued or I didn't like my manager. But salary is important in the sense of if you can get as competitive as possible. I find people try to save $1 or $2 per hour, but then in the end with turnover, that kind of shoots you in the foot. So it's sometimes it is worth it to just be more competitive. And then in the end, you're saving money if it saves you a bit of less turnover.
Right. Calculating the cost of turnover. And what I help people with is the formula for how to calculate their existing turnover. So knowing what your staff turnover is right now, 2023 to date, and what it was in 2022. And then working and putting a plan in place, like the plan that we're going to reveal to you guys today, or those tips that Ashley just revealed, is just put those in place and work on those things. And likely you will see your turnover go down and you can try to hit some targets and set some KPIs. So I love that. Very, very cool. So let's dive into the hiring success formula without any ado. So walk us step by step. You have kind of your model, your method for how you hire. So if you would just share that with us.
There's a couple things that have really been foundational in our success around hiring. And I'm talking like we'll get dozens of emails from people saying this is the best hiring process we've ever had, like hands down, like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to share those things right now. But one thing that's important, I think, to understand is hiring is essentially sales. People don't seem to understand it. They like pretend hiring's this administration thing, but it's not.
Right.
So whomever you're using for your hiring, they need to represent your organization really well and have and embody some of those values and be somewhat compelling, because that's going to make or break. If I could give you one tip, it's like have somebody compelling or hire, a team like ours to like do the hiring, because you don't want someone with lower energy or who's not. Sales is a big part of hiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've used the word marketing, but not sales. So that's really cool, because I've been like, hey, you have to market your school and your opportunity to applicants just like you would market your school to parents. So you're basically getting your marketing messages out there for recruitment right alongside in alignment with your enrollment messages. But I love the word sales, because you really are selling your organization, and somebody who's really good at sales might not be the typical person in an HR role. So I think we really need to think about that. Yeah.
Boom. Personality wise.
Yeah.
So you really want somebody compelling who's pioneering that.
Okay.
Second one is interesting because it can be applied to enrolling parents and it can be applied to hiring as well. Let me ask you this, Kris. Have you ever gotten a speeding ticket?
I'm embarrassed to say I've gotten many.
Okay. And so imagine you get pulled over.
Yeah.
Do you more or less, when you're in the car, know how it's going to go? Like when you see those lights flashing and pulled over, what happens to your body?
You have an adrenaline rush and you freak out, and no, you don't know how it's going to go, and you get nervous and look for your, all
it's
the
like
stuff.
The whole experience happening.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, and I'm going somewhere with this. Yeah. Also, have you ever gone to a doctor or dentist appointment? I'm imagining.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gorgeous teeth, so I can say. And from my experience with a doctor and dentist, they're often late. Have you had that experience?
Yes, I have.
It's like, and so I'm going to compare this to the cop as well. All of that is being set up from the almost like the situation. So before the police gets to our window, we have an idea of how it's going to go because the tone is already being set. The same with the doctor's office. The tone is set. We're probably going to wait for a while.
Yeah.
We should apply that kind of strategy to hiring and marketing and sales as well. You have to set the tone before it's even happening, before the interaction is even happening. And you can do that in many ways, but people think of it like, oh, the person's going to show up. It's not even that. It's when they apply, what kind of email are they getting? What does the application look like? You need to make everything stand out and be very appealing. And that's benefit in the sense of, honestly, most owners and directors in this space, honestly, aren't that creative and like aren't doing cool and edgy things. So those who are watching and listening have an advantage.
Yes.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to attract attention and do something different.
And to be fun in your hiring process and to, use personality. All of these things are attracting millennials and Gen Z. Don't be so formal, but yes. But what you're saying is just be intentional. Whatever your brand is, your brand story, your essence of your marketing and your hiring, be intentional and think through each piece in advance.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes. And it's very important, the language we're using. Like when somebody applies, the old message, like, thank you so much for applying. We will get back to you shortly. Like, forget it. It's like, hey, And again, this can be more automated, but it can still be like, hey, oh my gosh, yay, emoji, so excited you applied for this amazing job. Here are 10 things that you're gonna be over the moon about our company.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Yada yada. So it's like that energy has to translate, like you were saying.
Yes, much more fun, much more energetic. You definitely are going to be attracted to a place that comes with that kind of a message versus thank you for your application, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Yeah. And like sales, exactly, the robotic. And like sales, frankly, we want to close the deal in sales as quickly as possible. When we're enrolling parents, like we want them to commit today, tomorrow, whatever. So it's the same with hiring. People, for some reason, think it's like this leisurely. It's not. Those applications come in, you need to be on the ball and go quickly.
Right. Cool.
That talent is good talent. You want to snap them up fast. So this is another tip is in the hiring process, the next phase is like being fast processing those applications, being fast calling them up, being fast getting them to sign the contracts. That's where I see people drop the ball. Oh, well, now they came in and I like them, get them to sign. It's time, like get them to.
Right. I mean, I'm almost thinking that schools could go into a flow of using this process and just hire 3 people every month and just look for your A players and use their amazing process. It's May 5th. It's time to hire our 3 A players. It's June 5th. It's time to because you're going to have a little bit of turnover. So why not always be hiring and just have this flow set up,
Exactly.
like clockwork.
Yep.
I love
That's
it. All right. So with the response though, because there's different modalities coming in, there's text, there's social, there's Facebook Messenger, there's whatever, Instagram. Like how do we keep, we have the applicant tracking system, the ATS, but how do we keep organized with making sure that we're speedy with our responses? How do we stay organized?
That's a great question, which I was going to dive into that part.
Okay.
You hit it. Perfect. Nice transition. Nice segue.
Oh, good.
Using tools that are automated, like even like Calendly is a good example. So we have the ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, which tracks the applicants and is organized. But something like Calendly is you can send out a link and they can book directly into your calendar. And then the reminders are automated versus like having to send manual reminders. Using technology, Ring Central is a phone app we use where the calls can be recorded or like you can send automated texts, like trying to automate as much as possible, but stay friendly.
Yeah.
That's like a huge time saver. Second is having systems and upholding them with your team. So like, it doesn't matter how good the ATS is. If our team doesn't write the flipping notes, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So getting the team to uphold the integrity of the system, that's important too.
Accountability.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right, yes. Cool. All right. So I'm tracking with you. This is amazing. I'm loving it. And I know that our audience is loving it. So what's the next step?
And another key to having a really solid hiring process is following up a lot. Again, we can apply to sales. It's 5 to 7 contact points with someone before they pull the metaphorical trigger. So with applicants, they have all these opportunities. So following up does make a difference.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the automation comes in, having the text Ring Central, where it's like you can send out automated text, that kind of thing. Same with the applicant tracking. So fortune is really in the follow-up.
Yeah. So on the 7th follow-up, do you recommend doing something like, we haven't heard from you, Ashley, so I think we're going to close your file, or we're going to close your file, like some kind of it's basically a takeaway sell or a takeaway opportunity. Like it's basically, sometimes it does get people off the dime because they're like, oh, no. Don't take me off of your list. I'm interested. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. So what I like to do, I've tested this. I used to work with an organization and a cold email company that all they did was they did statistics for texting and emailing and what works to cold prospects. And one of the formulas that works really well, that I found works really well and statistically works really well, is the last message you send is asking them a question, picking 1 to 2. It's like, hey, sounds like you're super busy and you're not interested, but can you just reply with number 1 or number 2? Number 1's like, or as to why you didn't proceed with the opportunity. Like number 1 is like, I got an opportunity elsewhere. Number 2 is like, I'm just too busy or whatever. So like asking a question and they respond, a lot of people actually respond.
Right. And so you can potentially use that to restart a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. Or find out what the problem is.
Right. Cool. Love that. Also, if this position is not a fit for you, please tell us why.
Exactly.
A lot of people go to pay, but that's like the easy answer. And sometimes it's, I just wasn't getting the vibe. Again, back to you guys were really boring and didn't seem very fun. And I wasn't getting a lot of professional development. So, but the easy trigger is to say pay, but sometimes you don't get the actual honest answer is what I was trying to say there,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So what else?
And I find an important piece to this is making the interview process itself kind of interesting and creative and different. And also objective. Like if we're looking at quality of candidates, because okay, the market is competitive, yes, but we also want to retain our value as a center and hold our standards. So now when it comes to hiring people, a common question I get is like, how do we decide or like, how do we screen people? And I'll get into the red flags later of like what to look for. That's my favorite part because these ones are good. So hopefully you'll stay tuned. But I've developed over extensive research. I like to go with a hiring rating system because hiring can be really subjective. So imagine two of us interview someone. Hey, Kris, did you like him? Yeah, did you? So sure. It's like, okay, what do we do? Like, it's so subjective.
Yes.
So I have a formula that entails a rating system. So you're actually rating people numerically. And I'll tell you what that's based on. And then from there, if the person doesn't score higher than a certain number, it's not a subjective thing. It's like, okay, they're out.
They're out.
Exactly. So is it okay if I share the hiring rating?
Yes, please do.
All right. And here's what's awesome about this. You can also use this for team members, assessing team members and doing quarterly reviews and stuff, because these I feel are very important. Some of the most important skills and qualities in the world in terms of a good employee. These apply. So you can apply these to multiple things. So there's 6 of them. One of them is being coachable. And we want a team member who's coachable and open to feedback. So that's number 1. Number 2 is problem solving in the individual's capacity to handle situations. This is especially important in education because you're like, who knows what somebody's going to do, a child's going to do in the next moment, right?
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
Number 3, which is mission critical, is reliability. Being on time. Can the person be trusted to deliver? If you don't have reliability, you got nothing. Number 4 is motivation and what drives the candidate to be productive. I'll get more into that in a minute. Number 5 is personability. So like the culture, does the company culture match the person's? There's no right or wrong, but some cultures are a different fit depending, right? So that's like their personality. And then number 6 is we always want to look for, this is kind of a bonus one. We always want to look for a superpower in a person. And if you're hiring, you find that somebody doesn't have one special superpower, that's something that you might want to consider. Because ideally your hire should have some kind of superpower.
Right.
Any questions are?
Superpower meaning that like I'm really good at organizing and filing. Like give me your messes and I'll organize them, et cetera, et cetera. Or I'm really good at helping toddlers deal with, social situations when they're, whatever it is, socialization, whatever it is. So
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. And it can even get as simple as, wow, this person's really warm and nurturing. We hired someone at GYC recently who Kris, who you spent some time with last weekend. And something I noticed about her, which was her superpower, was she was very warm and nurturing and sweet.
Yeah.
And that's a superpower. It's like, oh, this is a special quality I really noticed,
Love that.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Okay. So, and I'm wondering, Kris, I'm thinking I'd like to send people, I'd like them to have access to this rating system and like the template. So, because I'm not going to cover it all, but can you give it to them later?
Yeah. So we have show notes, and in the show notes, we can either just put it in there, Ashley, as like a little PDF or a screenshot, or we can put a link to it. So whatever you want. So we'll include that for everybody listening in the show notes. Awesome.
Yeah. So with these questions or these qualities, it's like, okay, what do we do now? So with the coachability, we're going to have a few rating line items. And then, for example, like, okay, coachable, did the candidate ask questions? And again, I'm going to give this to you, so you don't
Yes,
necessarily have to write it down, but
that's a
being
great one.
coachable is like, is the person inquisitive?
Right.
I've interviewed people where like you don't ask any questions at all, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
No.
so 0 to 10, did they ask questions? I'd say, okay, they're a 7 or 8. Some people are like a 9 or a 10. I'm super inquisitive, you notice. So that's like a rating. Coachable. Did the candidate take feedback as part of the hiring process? That's another coachability. So like you're
Mhm.
rating it 1 to 10. Let's move into problem solving. From 1 to 10, did they answer the questions about how to handle a difficult task? Say we asked them a question about some kind of scenario, right? Did they
Right.
rate their answer on that? Did they provide an acceptable solution to the problem? So again, I'm going to include these questions, but coming up with questions where you can rate based on the skill.
Love it.
Any questions so far?
No, that's great. And I also have an applicant scoring scorecard that I
Oh,
use, and
cool.
it's similar to that. We haven't given it to the clients in a while, but also if you're going to do a classroom audition, if you're hiring a teacher in an EC environment, you might want to be able to do some kind of an addition or a writing sample or something that you can get a feel for their level of quality education that they're going to provide in the classroom, and just see, like, do they get down on the level of kids? Do they get down and sit down on the floor with kids? Do they get on their level? Do they, all of those things as well? So that would be a specific ECE focused scorecard in addition. And for those of you guys that have those, also, we can be sharing those as well. So I love that. All right, let's keep going.
And I want to add, like, people always ask me, they're like, what's the most important part of a hiring process and interview process? Like, to get quality candidates. If I could just have if I could only do one thing to hire someone and I had to eliminate everything, all I would do is some kind of test task. So whether that's in the classroom,
Right.
or whether that's like in some kind of interaction, or even like troubleshooting something in a report they have to write. I'm just making this up. Or like making a lunch again. Making
Right.
up. I find the rubber meets the road. People can interview really well,
Yeah.
and then not pull through and not be a good candidate.
I mean,
But
doing a lesson plan would be great. A lesson plan.
yes,
Great one.
because if people crumble, that's when they crumble, is in the test task. And we want them to crumble just to make sure, you know what I mean? And what I mean by crumble is, typically I find with the test task, if somebody's not reliable, they fall off then.
Right.
It's just, I just haven't hired thousands of people in my career. Like, they will fall off, like, so like they'll be late, or they do it and then write that, and that gets
and that's
into the
it.
That's an immediate no.
Yes. Right. That's a no-go for sure if they're late with their test task. I love that.
Yeah. So that's very important, the test task.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
So what I'm going to do is, just in the sake of time, I'm noticing I have more content to cover. I'm going to send everyone, I'm going to send you, and you can put it in the notes, this scoring system, and then they can just look at it and kind of access it. But if it's okay with you, are we okay to move to the red flags?
Yes, let's go to the red flags. So red flags that you would encourage people to look for while they're interviewing. What are the warning signs?
It's so funny. So I have this mentor that I really like I'd follow his Instagram or whatever. And he'd always say about dating, he'd say, look, ladies or gentlemen, however somebody is showing up at the beginning is their best self. Like, they're trying their hardest typically at the beginning. So if they come out of the gate really not great or like unreliable, like that, it typically only goes downhill from there.
Right.
So it's a hiring process where I find people just give too many chances and make excuses. Like, times because of their grandma or whatever, but it's like, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, parents aren't going to be like, oh, all of these reasons. Well, they just, you know what I mean? The job needs to get done.
Yeah.
So a big red flag with hiring with whoever is listening and watching is the fact that you're giving too many chances.
Love that.
Yeah. So just like, don't with the chances. Even after onboarding, you do your 30, 60, 90, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But like, if you hired the wrong person, that's fine, but it's much easier to cut the cut the cord at the beginning than to wait a full year and then for them to wreak havoc on your company and then
Yes.
do it later.
Yes. And I have to give you a story on that, which is that I gave somebody way too many chances in the beginning. I was hiring for a digital marketing position in-house. And this gentleman was not impressive, not aligned with our culture. I don't know why I hired him. My gut was firing not to hire him. I didn't listen to my gut. Actually, I did everything wrong and I hired him anyways. And he was with us for about 9 months and caused a lot of pain or just didn't really do much. So basically, he kind of sloughed off and slacked, and we gave him a paycheck for hardly any work. And then finally let him go. So I could have saved myself 9 months of pain and payroll by listening. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a great story. There's this thing in science called, I can't even remember what it's called. I'm just making this up completely, but there's a term where it's like when you've gone so far with someone, it's like compounded and then there's a regret to go back.
It's the law of consistency.
Okay.
Yes, it's one of
like
the.
you're already in so far, so that people won't back out. They're like, oh, we've gone too far, so I need to I need to finish this relationship like long.
Right.
It's like, no, sometimes you just need to back out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what other red flags?
Yeah, so I would say being presentable and showing up professionally. I've had some virtual interviews in the past where like somebody's in a garage with like weird lighting, but then like food piles behind and like bed sheets. Like in person, it's different, but you know, you want somebody to show up reasonably presentably.
Yes.
That's, I think, is important. Kris,
Yes.
I don't know what do you.
I completely agree with you. And I would be aghast if somebody was on a Zoom interview with trash and bed sheets in the back. So yeah, they're out of here. All right. What else?
And then one more is I like to ask a question why you left your last position. And I find that can be very telling. And people who I find people, the ones who typically pass this question are the ones that somewhat are elusive. Because if you hear someone saying, like, oh, my ex-employer really sucked and like they were really victimized, and they go into this big story where they're trash talking. I find that isn't great. So I'd say that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. People can handle that question tastefully.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, it just wasn't a match.
Right.
You know, that's a good answer. Like, we just weren't aligned. Or, you know, there's room for vulnerability where actually, you know, I had challenges with my employer, but if somebody's like, everything's gone wrong to me or is happening to me, then that's where it's like, you know, maybe not taking responsibility.
Yeah. And you definitely don't want that victim mindset.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other red flags?
Those are the main ones I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other ones that I find that, yeah, if they don't have any interest in the company, it's kind of similar to the one if they don't have any questions.
Yeah.
But if they don't have any seeming like passion or interest about, because some people will come to us and they have researched our website, they know the story of the brand, they're excited about the mission, they know the core values already, they are talking about the values, like they come in already, they've done their homework. And that's the person that you want, you know?
Wonderful one. That's really a good point.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit. We just have a few minutes left. Let's just touch on onboarding, because I know for our listeners, sometimes could be a daunting process to onboard properly. So any pro tips that can help the audience when they're creating or revamping their onboarding?
Yeah. You know, onboarding can be very forgiving if you really have a lot of communication and a lot of connection points with the employee. The first 30 days are critical and they determine how the person does at the company long term. So it's fine if your onboarding's a mess as long as somebody is there and connecting with them and taking them under their wing. Ideally, we don't want the onboarding to be a mess.
Right.
So there's systems we can set up and automations and different things where it's like, oh, our employee manual, we've done a really good job of that. And like everything's set up in advance so that like you just kind of flip the switch and there's these procedures, videos they watch, procedures they go through. Ideally, you want that, my suggestion.
Mhm.
But coupled with that, that doesn't replace that high touch. So having HR check in, meet with them the first day, having HR check in with them the first week, multiple check-ins the first month, having a culture buddy. So someone fun at the company, you can rotate people where it's just like they're showing you the ropes, like the lunchroom and the time, the parties or different things that they do extracurricular. So having a
Mm-hmm.
culture buddy is really nice.
That's
Um,
cool.
and then, yeah, so having the people checked in on a lot.
Right.
And then one really important thing is doing that 30, 60, 90 review. Most places don't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I find it's a big disservice. Just like essentially, what are you doing well? What are you not doing well? And then refining. People want feedback. They want to know what they're doing well and not doing. And if you're noticing a lot of red flags, or it's like things aren't, if you've given feedback and things aren't turning around, that's where you really actually want to let go of the person versus like drag out the relationship. Because one more thing is I was saying with hiring, we were hiring recently and the gals were coming to me and I said, ladies, don't look for the maybes because they're like, well, this person kinda, you know. I said, don't look for the maybes, look for the yes. When you know, when the person
Yes,
yes, you don't, there's no doubt. It's
that's
like this
right.
is the person.
Yes. That feeling is so
Yeah,
clear. And if it's definitely a no and your gut is firing, don't hire that
right.
person. So I love all that, Ashley. So something about when you were speaking about, oh, the onboarding piece, do you think that there should be a 30, 60, 90 checklist, maybe even for, I mean, that's like a training tool, but um, things
Totally.
to give them an expectation of what they should be learning and doing in the
Yeah.
first 30,
Yeah.
60, 90,
So the
right?
30, 60, 90 review and then the 30, 60, 90-day plan. And
Okay.
at schools, it can be quite generic. So it's like read the mission and values, talk to these people, get your certification in this. Like it can be quite generic, I find,
Mhm.
and can apply for, but yeah, they need some kind of plan to follow is absolutely.
Right. Right. Cool. I love that. So we are out of time. This has been incredible information, and I am so grateful for you to come in and give your system, based on all of the research you've done and all the people that you've hired. And unfortunately, you've probably had to also offboard or let go of some people in your journey as well. So that's a whole nother podcast topic. But I wanted to ask you what you're most looking forward to in the remainder of 2023. What's on the horizon for you?
Gosh. Well, some of you listening probably know Grow Your Center, that we do marketing and we do recruiting for childcare centers. And last year we had some growing pains. So what I'm looking forward to is this year we've totally revamped. I'd say our company from the top and bottom down. We made a
Yeah,
lot of optimizations. Doubling down on high touch customer service, new and fresh social media content for our clients. We're launching a done with you is something I'm looking for, a done with you recruiting. So instead of not only us recruiting for centers, but centers who says budgets are a little bit less, they can just plug our system in and recruit for themselves with everything set up, the ATS and everything. So I'd say that's
nice.
probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
That's exciting. And
Yeah,
then, of course, you're going to come and join us in Denver at our next mastermind at the end of
I will
July.
be
So,
there.
and you and I will finally get to meet in person
I know. Okay.
after dozens of hours together on Zooms.
Exactly.
And then we have our summit in the fall, which I'm
Yeah,
hoping you'll be coming
I'll
to
be there too.
Orlando. Cool.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
hope everybody listening says hi to me. Come say hi.
Yeah. And if you guys are listening, also, our tickets are being bought up really quick. So definitely get your summit tickets fast because we're ahead of pace and the ballroom always sells out. So I'm really, really super excited for the best and biggest summit ever and for Grow Your Center to be there as one of our premier sponsors. And hopefully we'll have our done with you recruiting. And of course, we have our done for you recruiting, and that's led by the amazing Carmela. So we would love for you guys, if you're interested in working and having this taken off your plate. Today was like totally amazing content. If you want to do it yourself and do it in-house and do all your recruiting, you can use everything that Ashley shared. But also, if you just want us to handle it for you, we would love to have the honor to do that. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so cool. Well, thank you so much. Any other final thoughts, Ashley, before we say goodbye?
No, I've just really enjoyed this. It sounds like you have an amazing audience. So thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in once again to Childcare Rockstar Radio. Thanks, Ashley Ryan. And we will see everybody next time. Take care and God bless.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz, the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz, exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.